Welcome to Table Talk. I'm Chase.
And I'm Simon.
And what is Table Talk, you might be asking? Well, Table Talk's a weekly podcast where we cover everything in wargaming, board gaming, and really kind of any hobby-related things related to gaming, like 3D printing or maybe game design. And, you might be thinking, why are we doing this? Well, Simon, why are we doing this?
Because you asked me to.
Very true.
No, because we basically like collaborating. I was on an earlier On the Table show, I think the end of last year, and we sat down and talked about A Song of Ice and Fire. And that was a bunch of fun. I've never really done anything like that before, and me and Chase get along pretty well. So since then, we've just been talking about other games nonstop and different projects and things, and we decided to sit down and get the cameras going and start recording.
And I feel like one of the sub-themes of On the Table Gaming and the stuff I like to do is just to always be learning. And I think, I'm excited to kind of explore some other games and other systems out there with you. I think this will be a lot of fun. And you might be wondering, someone in the comments might be thinking, yeah, but why Simon? Why Simon? We have so much fun together. We have a good rapport, joking and stuff. And we've actually had some previous collaborations. So we actually designed a game together. Can we talk about this or?
Well, we spent some time designing a game together. It was a bunch of fun. We're really proud of what we've done so far. We've got plenty of work ahead of us, but we're big fans of our own project and we want to keep working on it. So that's as much as we're going to share at this stage.
So, and in addition to working together on that, we'll be looking on this podcast series at games we're interested in 2021. And so in particular, I've been really looking at Mortal Gods. That's been something that's been on my list for a while now. I got it and got into it right before COVID hit. And, didn't get to play it as much as I want, and now I want to kind of explore that further. The other big one for me is I missed out on Bloodborne, and I want to get into board games more. And I know Michael Chanel designed that. I know for A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game, especially if you guys are following that game, he's done great work with that game and his design. So I know he's going to be doing a He-Man game going forward, and I really want to get on top of that. They put out like one designer diary so far. The Kickstarter hasn't even started, but that's something I'm laser focused in on for this year. What are some games that maybe you're interested in coming up?
Good question. So given that COVID's hit, I've been playing a lot of Blackstone Fortress solo. That's a great game. I'm just a huge fan of it. In addition to that, I did buy the Conquest Last Argument of Kings from Parabellum. I was really impressed by the way they've communicated with the community and sort of built out their own world. So I'm quite keen to explore that. I quite like the 100 Kingdoms. Want to collect those models, and when the time is right, maybe sit down for a game. They also have some skirmish rules coming up as well. So I'm going to get into that. I also owned a bunch of Modiphius games. I think Fallout and the Elder Scrolls based around the video games. Haven't had an opportunity to play those yet, but I look forward to doing some stuff there. And then finally, we're both fans of song, and I'm also a fan of history. So I'm looking to move more into historical type war games. A bunch of my friends have played Saga in the past, but in terms of timing, Baron's War from Footsore Miniatures is right at the sort of a good time for me to start exploring that system. I've downloaded the rule book and going to start getting into that, I think, probably because I like the miniatures as well, and I'm going to buy a bunch of miniatures. So I'm sure there's going to be a ton of projects this year as well. So yeah, I just really want to see what's happening. There's a lot coming up from Games Workshop as well. So we're really spoiled for the depth of choices that we have today.
And that's, we get the 2021 update coming for A Song of Ice and Fire in this year as well. And, a lot of you might be tuning in coming from A Song of Ice and Fire in that community. And so actually, let's take a second here and talk about our most recent update to the A Song of Ice and Fire community builder. So I'm really excited to show what we've been working on and that kind of the next big step forward for the builder. So the goal for this was to make everything much more mobile friendly. So Simon, have you had a chance to take a look at Song of Ice and Fire Builder yet?
Yes, Chase. I wouldn't be doing my job if I hadn't already had a chance to look at your website, and I've even put together my own list.
Oh, let's pop it over, take a look. I'm excited.
Let's do it.
Oh boy.
As many people know, Chase is a huge fan of the free folk, and I think that's kind of influenced a lot of what's we've seen happening in the game, and certainly in the community. So I'm really here to sort of address that balance, and obviously I'm a big supporter of the Night's Watch. I'm sure Chase is going to have a few problems with that, but hey, Chase, is too bad. So I put together a list specifically against the free folk, and I've named this Coward Hunters. Now, with this particular list,
too soon.
Well, they will have the cowardly keywords. That is correct, isn't it? Yeah, they do. Yeah, I just get that right. So with this particular list, first of all, the Night's Watch don't want to expend anything of any value when fighting the free folk. So we just have conscripts across the board. In addition to that, I've put Jon Snow. Jon Snow's keen to be sort of very bold, and we get Ghost as well, so probably just chase them from behind. And also we've got one Watch Recruiter. Don't really need them, but just put him in because he's 1 point. In addition to that, I've got Craster, because to be quite honest, he doesn't really like anybody, and Peter Baelish, because I enjoy his playstyle. So this is my Coward Hunters list, Chase, that I'll be using maybe when we sit down and get a game on the table.
Okay. I can't believe you went with that name, Coward Hunters. Too soon for the community. It was still reeling from the cowardly keyword. If you look in the upper right, you can see there are some little gray icons, or red if you click them, and you can toggle those to see the different unit type. If you want to just filter by that unit type, siege weapons, cavalry, that sort of thing. We've also got a search bar that you can search up unit names in. So, and the big thing is this is all about making it more user-friendly, so that, if you're out there at a store, or you're playing with your friends, or you're on a subway somewhere and you want to flip through and make a list, you can pull this up on your phone or device and be able to access your army and play more easily, right? It's all about accessibility. And so, given the response to the builder and the number of people that have been using it, we're really excited to expand this into some new areas. So stay tuned. 2021 is going to be the year of the builder. And, all this is really only possible with your support. And if you want to help support the builder or the show, if you're in a position to do so, consider supporting us on Patreon.
Absolutely. I must get around to doing that as well myself, Chase. So, and also, if anybody has any amazing Night's Watch lists which can take down the free folk, please send them in to us as well. Be delighted to review those.
And if you happen to see anything that needs to be updated, or you have comments or things you'd like to see more of, reach out to us on our social media sites. You can go to our Facebook page, On the Table Gaming, and shoot us a message, and we'll get back to you.
Awesome. So I guess at this juncture, what we'll discuss is the fact that we're not really experts in gaming. We're just geeks and we enjoy games. So what we really want to do is hear from you guys as to what kind of games you'd like us to cover. Where do you feel potentially there's not good high quality coverage? Where would you like us to showcase certain games or certain systems, or even speak to the developers? We'll see if we can get in front of those guys and ask the questions that you want answered. So please feel free to contact us. Let us know what you'd like to see, and we'll happily try and oblige.
And, there's been so much news coming out recently from so many different games. I feel like we're kind of riding a wave. This past weekend, Games Workshop came out with a big announcement. And, Games Workshop, that's something I'm kind of easing back into. It was something I really enjoyed when I first started the hobby. I took some time away, and now I've kind of been peeking back over the divide, being like, hey, what's going on over there? So today, maybe you can help, lead us through some of the big news and announcements that came out at their most recent reveal.
Sounds good. Let's take a look. So just to give a bit of background to the audience, sort of Games Workshop do these presentations probably about every quarter, which is forthcoming releases from Games Workshop. And today, Adam Troke and Eddie Eccles took us through about an hour of previews of sort of releases through all the different systems, with a few surprises at the end. So we're going to get straight into it, and we're going to scroll down here, and we're going to look at Warhammer 40k. We've got some Kill Team updates, Adeptus Titanicus, something I've not really played in the past very much. Then we've got some Age of Sigmar releases, a new Warband for Warhammer Underworlds, and then finally is that surprise. So if you want to see the video, it's available right here. So just visit the Warhammer community page and you can watch all of this from the presentation. But when we go to Warhammer 40,000, the first thing we go to is a release for the Battle Sisters, or Sisters of Battle as we used to call them. And
for us old folks.
We have the Paragon Warsuit. Let's just bring it up. There we go. So when this was discussed on the stream, it got a little bit of a mixed reaction. And I can kind of see why. What's your initial hot take on this one, Chase?
I think I just love the concept of this like exoskeleton and you know, it almost has like have like an aliens vibe, right? You're like moving around with this thing that you're controlling. The proportions are something a little bit off, maybe in this image. It might be something I'd want to kind of hold in my hand. It seems like the head placement and the torso connecting to the legs, like there's some maybe like weird spacing there. It might not be like the most uncomfortable thing to like sit in and pilot. But you know, maybe I'd have to like kind of see it rotate or something. I'm not adverse to it, but something right now seems like a slightly off to me.
I kind of agree. It looks like it was a suit built for her older sister a little bit, where she's just struggling to poke her head out of the top of it.
But like it's kind of doing like a split almost there, right? Like that's a pretty wide hip location to get the legs into the legs. Like
it is, but if you look at their Space Marine models, I can imagine they're pretty uncomfortable too.
That's true. That's true.
It's pretty common for Games Workshop stuff.
The horrible things you have to go through in the 41st millennium.
Absolutely, and you know, anatomically, Chase, you obviously think about this quite a lot with these types of miniatures. But if you just think about the foot placement and what happens if you start moving your foot, maybe feet pointed down. I don't want my head space to go there. I just want it to work. I don't want to think to myself,
right? Okay, fair enough.
What's going on here? You know, I just want to enjoy the model, and I struggle with it when they have this kind of slight weirdness to them. I think it's a cool looking model, and with any army you want a bit of variation. So if you have a couple of these in your army, it's going to look pretty cool. You know, there's no denying that. Battle Sisters obviously has seen a huge sort of increase in interest and availability of models over the last couple of years, I think it is. Big buzz over the initial box set, and then I think there was a box set against Dark Elves. It was like a 2-faction starter pack, an entry point there, and so obviously they're starting to build out the faction with other types of experiences. And I think if you're our Battle Sisters fan, you're going to love this, and you're going to want to get this on the table as soon as possible.
It's definitely, if I went back to 40K, that would be a faction that I would look at. I think I sort of stopped around when the Sisters of Battles kind of like were re-envisioned in second edition or coming to third. I remember going back, I actually pulled out just here my my old Rogue Trader rule book from when I was a kid, and in the very back they had Sister Sins shooting a Space Marine. I always thought that was such a cool model or image, and
That's awesome.
I might pick a few of these up. I might give them a shot if I got back into it.
Yep, it's probably not something I'm going to do, but I definitely like to see these types of sort of models, and I think it's a cool aesthetic. If we go down a little further, there's no release date on any of this stuff, so we're not quite sure when it's actually going to hit. But judging by the cadence of these types of sort of updates, I imagine maybe within a month or two, we'll be seeing this available, and I'm sure it will sell out quite quickly, like a lot of the other Games Workshop releases recently. Okay, so that's the Adeptus Titanic release. Next up, Kill Team. We have the Pariah Nexus, which echoes very similar to the new edition of Warhammer 40,000. We have a Space Marine versus Necron box set here, 2-faction starter box set. I did clarify this. This is something you can actually get started with the game, which is fantastic, an entry point into Kill Team. You have a friend that plays Kill Team, don't you?
Yes, so Josh is really into Kill Team. He's been sending me throughout lockdown just pictures of like, it started off like very innocently, like, oh, I just picked up some miniatures. I might try out Kill Team. And then like a month into lockdown, he's like, you know what? It's so easy to pick up a small force. So I bought another faction that I'll be playing for Kill Team. And now I think he's got like 5 or 6 like mini groups. So there's a little bit of pressure for me to jump in. Maybe this would be a way to do that. I would probably not be playing the Necrons though. I'm not a big baddies person. So I guess Space Marines are a little vanilla, but I could jump in with them. These sculpts themselves though look fantastic compared to the old Space Marines I got kicking around with like the single pose, pop the bolter on the chest look. So look at that.
Yeah, these are the heavy intercessors. I can tell you're being friended into this where, Josh is saying, well, I've got another faction. Maybe you could play those guys to make it super easy for you to get into this. So it's a system that it's a system that I've struggled to get into in the past. When it first came out, it was great. I was interested, but it seemed very open-ended. Mm-hmm. And I think we both like curated experiences in games where you get the box, you get everything that you work with, and you just get going with it. When you have to sort of put that extra mental effort into sourcing other models and building out these things, it's more problematic as an entry point, but people do love that as well. So I do think this has quite a wide appeal. These heavy intercessors, however, are going to be of tremendous interest to anybody who collects Space Marines. And I think through these models alone, we're going to see this one sell out pretty quickly. So if you are a Kill Team fan, I would encourage you to pre-order, because I'm pretty sure these are going to fly off the shelves, given there's only 5 Space Marines here and people are going to want multiples of these for their 40k armies.
Look at those, man.
Apparently these are supposed to be, well, for what I heard, what I remember, these are supposed to be posable, but they look a little bit like static sculpts. But you know, if they do have that, I think that's going to be pretty cool, certainly for 40k collectors. We also have the Necrons, and we have here, I think it's called the Chronomancer. Yeah, there he is. I kind of feel like I've seen this model before. It seems familiar.
Some echoes there. Would you be a guy who plays the baddies? Are you going to be a Necron player if you had to choose out of the starter set? We sit down. Which side are you going to play?
Put it this way, Chase. If we bought this box together and we opened it up and looked at all the miniatures, and I let you take the Space Marines out, I'll be very happy to take the Necrons. Yeah. For me, I like the Xenos aesthetic. I like the variation here. Space Marines, I've seen those for 30 years.
They've been around for a while.
They have.
It's classic. It's classic.
They try and innovate, but it's always so sort of a evolution of what's already there. You can't drastically add new things to it. Is what it is. But for me, I like something which is a bit more unusual. Now, the Chronomancer, fantastic model. It does look very similar to some of the other character models we've seen recently, but also we have our ghoulish flayed ones here, and I think these guys look a bit. They don't look very happy. Put it that way.
No, yeah.
They look like they're sort of failed Freddy Krueger cosplayers dead. I don't know. It seems a bit strange, but
this first one's the least intimidating, right? Though, like he seems a little bit like a little derpy, a little goofy looking. The other ones are like more creepy, menacing.
Yeah, they look like he's had a hard day at battle, and he's just like, you know, guys, I just want to go home. Come on. We got this guy here. He's styling it up for sure. Yeah. So we got these ones.
They've got the moody cloth draping over their face, like a little bit more scary looking.
Exactly. Yeah, because robots always need cloth protection for anything.
Yeah, you know,
from, bad weather and stuff. And
that first one's the one they just let tag along. They're like, oh, this guy, like, all right, come on, you can come with us. Like, thanks, guys.
Maybe it was like, take your kids to work day.
Yes. Yes. At least this guy cut eye slots out. He can see through his cloth. But this one's kind of a cool one. He's like creeping up.
It is, and obviously the talons and the things are the visual key here. Whenever you look at an army, you look for the sort of the outline when you're sort of designing these things, and they went very hard with this. I think for if you're a Necrons fan, you're really going to love these models. So for me, I've got the Indomitus box set. I haven't really explored it very much, but I like to get into it. I think there's a lot of value there, and there are some cool models. It's apparent, though, that Games Workshop continue to innovate in this space and do some exciting things. And not all the models always hit it home with everybody. I think some people look at these, and another thing we've talked about before is these are 2D representations of 3D models. And so sometimes you get a view from one angle and it might not resonate with you, but when you actually see the model in person, maybe with your paint job or another paint job, different alternative color scheme, it can look fantastic. Wonderful. Moving forward. Oh, yes. One final thing here. We've got what's in the box. And this is good. Again, this is a full starter experience. One area that we're a little bit, I think, it's not a problem, but we look at the 48 pieces of Necron terrain.
We're whelmed, right? We're not...
Yeah. For sure. I'm definitely whelmed on this. It looks a little bit like containers and doors. That's it. It looks like to be like a double-sided battle board, and it's a regular size here. And I think when they discussed this, they said this experience would be more akin to Kill Team Arena, where there's more like line of sight and blocking and things like that. So I think ultimately that's the kind of game that I prefer. Would I get this? Maybe, actually. Yeah, maybe if there was a fallow week or two where I hadn't bought anything else and I just had that urge to get something new, then I might pick this up.
Yeah, I could see that. If I was going to be jumping into Kill Team, and Josh, if you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, yes, excellent. This might be an easy way that I jump in. But, right now, I don't know. There's a lot of other cool things that they talked about that maybe spoke to me a little bit more.
Yep, Josh, you got him. So get him this, and he'll start playing with you. Make sure he gets to Space Marines. Adeptus Titanicus, however, moving from a small-scale skirmish to something which is epic and certainly something which dominates the table. With Adeptus Titanicus, it's always been really large-scale robots, and today we have Attack of the 104-foot Titan. We have the Warmaster Titan, which represents the biggest of all of the Titans we've seen so far. What do you think of this?
Well, this doesn't necessarily speak to me. I always found it fascinating, though, having stepped away from Warhammer 40K and some of these Games Workshop games. But when I see people at the store playing them, they come in with like their literal towering like statues. I can see the appeal, but it's not necessarily the niche for me. I mean, this guy looks pretty cool. He's all kitted out. But this would probably not be a game that I would jump into play, just personally because of my own preferences.
I think the same for me. Again, we had spoken earlier about you liking Free Folk in A Song of Ice and Fire because you have so many infantry models, a lot of dudes, and I'm kind of similar with that. When the scale creeps up like this, the danger is that you, especially in 40K, if people start bringing Titans along, number of points in the game creeps up, and it's very hard for someone with a lot of guys to bring all those models, infantry models, to a game. So I know that people really love this system, and it's great they're continuing to support it. One thing we see with 40K sort of Games Workshop games is the support window for games typically is like 18 months to 2 years. And I think this has been going a little bit longer than this, certainly for some of the sort of pure play experiences, maybe some of the sort of self-contained games. But I think this is seemed to be more of a system. So I think there'll be continued support for these types.
Where will it end, though? Right? They keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's like come up with new names for each class. Are they gonna like have to wear a suit in at some point? It'd be a LARPing experience. It's like, how big can these get?
Though, if you're running a game company, would you say to yourself, "Great, we're doing really well here, guys. Next step, we're going to go smaller."
Oh, right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think that's going to be tough to sell to anybody. But then again, it'd be cool to have little dudes running around here as well. You can get a appreciation of scale. So if you've already got some of the models, Warlord Titan was the biggest, but now this guy's got a whole new level of chonk here. So he's a bit of a big boy.
Oh my gosh, that's it's getting big there. They're getting a little ridiculous. What's the name on that one? The scale name?
Momentous.
Momentous.
So, from Magnificus to Momentous. I'm sure they've got other models lined up which go further to the right as well.
A Venti or something,
Yeah. Some people are not going to be happy until they've got something which is as big as them. That's the bottom line. So I'm sure it will be coming eventually. In addition to that, there is obviously a new let's have a look here. This is a sort of a supplement to the game. And I think that this probably includes a lot more than just rules of that particular model. So I'm sure that expands out the game system as well. Wonderful. So that wraps up 40K. And next we move into Warhammer Age of Sigmar.
All right. So this is kind of interesting. So I used to play a lot of Warhammer Fantasy back in the day, played my High Elves. So I see some echoes of that here. It's kind of always strange seeing like the new things come out that are so familiar, but also still a little bit alien, or you're like, that's an interesting shift here. But some of the sculpts on these are fantastic. Did you ever play Warhammer Fantasy or even Age of Sigmar?
Yeah, so I've got a bunch of Age of Sigmar models. It started off with the Stormcast, and I remember going into a local store in San Jose where I used to live, Game Castle. We went in there, we were playing Age of Sigmar, and it's when it first came out. People were walking past the table making derogatory comments. They couldn't believe we were playing Age of Sigmar when they just killed off Warhammer Fantasy and that was the best game ever, and they should never have done it. And for us to be in the store, one of being the first people to play this game, we got quite a lot of stick. So that tempered my enthusiasm with this, but it's fair to say that Games Workshop have continued to invest in this system.
Yeah.
And the evolution has been remarkable from where they were to where they are today. Now, you mentioned High Elves. And for me, High Elves have always been probably my favorite faction in maybe Skaven as well, but for different reasons. But I think that the High Elves in Warhammer Fantasy were the archetypal elves in terms of what you look to, what you feel would be like elves. Lord of the Rings comes close, but they lack the dynamism of some of the traditional Warhammer Fantasy stuff. So when you look at things like Lumineth, I'm kind of thinking this is the closest we've got, so I'm kind of okay with it. Do you feel the same way?
I don't know. I feel conflicted. There's something about the regalness of the High Elves that is captured, but also like isn't captured in these miniatures. The feralness is really cool, but I don't know. It's not exactly what I'm looking for, I guess. So, I think it might be miniatures that I would pick up to paint for fun, but they're not something that I would like strongly, passionately like identify with or like, be super invested into as a faction being like, yeah, those are the ones. But look at this, like, whoa.
It is pretty cool. And full disclosure, so there was a Lumineth box set, a limited edition box set, which was out last year, I think it was. And it's always available. You can get it on eBay. And based on the announcement today and some of the leaks, or I think they kind of got ahead of the release a little bit with some of the new models. I actually went ahead and bought that. So I've got some of the Realm Lords models coming, which would be quite cool. I might want to do an LED conversion of one of them. The guy that doesn't have a body, just the armor, I might put some LEDs in there. That might look pretty cool. But this model alone, I just thought, yeah, this is fun. And even though aesthetically it doesn't resonate with me, I think the fun aspect of it and having a Age of Sigmar army would be a cool thing to be able to paint and to play with. So this is why I'm going to maybe start getting into this in a small scale and see how I feel about it. This guy, however, is a pretty cool model. My only concern with this is price point. I do find that Games Workshop models scale according to height in terms of price, and there's a lot of Vortex stuff here and maybe not a lot of plastic. So I think we might be looking at the $100 mark. I hope not. For me, I think I might pick this one up and certainly try and emulate this paint job because I think it's done a great job here.
Absolutely.
We see a little bit more detail here. Again, the way that this is not only been painted but sculpted and designed is remarkable. And the amount of time and care and attention they put into this. So it really represents good value for those who use it a lot. But you don't want too much plastic sitting around in boxes. You really want to be using it. So my commitment this year is to really start painting stuff and making use of the stuff I collect. In addition to that, we have a supplement here, Teclis, and this goes into more details as to sort of additional war scrolls for Lumineth, Realm Lords, obviously. Teclis is the leader. Cities of Sigmar, which is going to be quite popular. People really like those factions, all the way from Warhammer Fantasy. Things like Mordheim continue to be really, really popular, and those factions as well. So I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of they're going to really like that. Maggotkin of Nurgle, yeah, that's great. Flesh Eater Courts, fantastic. And Ossiat Bone Reapers, that's not really my thing. But so there's certainly a lot more added to it. And I've done a good job at continuously evolving and adding to Age of Sigmar. Have you actually played Age of Sigmar? Have you sat down and had a game?
I have not. Actually, I was kind of getting back into my hobbying, just getting back into miniature wargaming when they killed off the Warhammer Fantasy World. It was one of those things that kind of caught the news, and I was like, I have strong feelings about this, even though it's not something like I actively play.
Right.
But I think actually the thing you mentioned about maybe some people in the community who are still processing the switch over to Age of Sigmar, that actually kind of turned me off a little bit. And, because part of the enjoyment of playing these games is like finding people to play with, and you got to find a community that is also supportive and enjoys the game. But now, I mean, obviously the transition's been made and people love it. And the same people that were kind of deriding it at first are now, happily pushing their armies across the table. So, maybe it would be a good one to jump back in. For me, it's more of like a matter of time and funding here. And 40K kill team, or on top of a Song of Ice and Fire and Star Wars Legion, that gets a bit of a commitment.
Absolutely, yeah. And you have to see it at that. I think if you're being rational about how you invest your hard-earned money in your hobbies, there is very easy to overspend here. So, for instance, I probably wouldn't pick up the supplement book. The model itself, yeah, I'd like that. I'd like to see it, I'd like to paint it and to just experience it. But that's really the extent of what I do. Also, they did have an announcement on the Old World today. And I know both of us have an affection for the more traditional Warhammer fantasy rank and file. Do you get the feeling that maybe you're reluctant to move into Age of Sigmar because this is on the horizon? You might want to invest in it later?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd want to wait and see what's out there first.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I want to have some fun now, and I think it's clear that these models probably won't be. They'll probably be very distinct from the old world. I
Right.
think we'll see a very specific, more earthy, simpler aesthetic. Maybe not even aligned to what it was previously, but I think it would feel different. Yeah, I want to experience Age of Sigmar. There's huge communities out there. People are very passionate about the game. But again, it's one of those games where I'm going to sit and watch you take your whole turn, and then I'm going to take my turn. We're used to more dynamism than that. So, yeah, I just have to see how I feel about it. Cool. So next up, we have the Battletome for Daughters of Khaine. And these are sort of a mixture of older and new models within this faction. But some of the character models here are absolutely fantastic. I think it's Morathi is the big snake, huge model. And there's like 2 versions of her, and she can transform in a battle. That and some of the things they saw with the Sylvaneth, the character model on the Beetle, those look absolutely amazing. And so what we're seeing here is some endless spells. And for me, endless spells have always been a little bit hit and miss with the sculpts. Some of the times they look like sort of like, I don't know, toys or something that you put on the battlefield. But I'm not a big fan of the Lumineth ones, but what we're seeing here with the Daughters of Khaine is remarkable. I really like the snake. Again, that's a theme seen throughout the army. These swords flailing around with blood, although it looks a bit like spaghetti or plasticine going on there. And yeah, then we get something like this, highly stylized, probably not my thing. But again, it's a very, very cool sculpt. The paint jobs make them look great. But if I had a Daughters of Khaine faction, I'd be very happy to include those ender spells. Whereas maybe some other factions, I might not be that proud of them. Just they would be more for effect than for the looks.
Yeah, I agree. I think that snake one, the middle one, looks amazing. The gauntlet is, I don't know. It might be fun to paint, but it's not a must buy.
No, not by any means. Now, I think we're going to start getting into the must buys now. And I really like Shadespire I think it's one of the best experiences that Games Workshop put together, which speak to a different market. The game plays a lot more, for those who don't know, Shadespire plays a lot more like a card game, where you have the models which represent the sort of the spatial arrangement of your team, but the cards have a lot of the power. So again, very similar to A Song of Ice and Fire, which we play. It's that kind of like multiple experience where there's some hidden information as well. Now, Shadespire has seen multiple seasons. So I call it Shadespire. It's Warhammer Underworlds, and everyone calls it Shadespire, but there's been multiple iterations. I think Direchasm is the 3rd or maybe even 4th release of this. Now, the Direchasm was, I think the end of last year was the sort of the box, which is like the starter experience, 2 factions. If you buy this, you can get started. And then they released faction packs for it. And what they've done now is they've moved into vampires with the Crimson Court. And what we're going to see here are some models which I think we both absolutely love.
Gosh. I mean, look at that pose. Everything about that is amazing. The detail on the armor. This is where you see like Games Workshop sculpts like really shine.
Absolutely. These are monopose models, obviously, but if you just look at the way they've been sculpted and the way that they would take paint, which is another thing that Games Workshop do, I'm not claiming that I'm going to get results anywhere close to this, but you could aspire to it for sure. And the models do make it easier. So this is absolutely fantastic. And anybody who's a fan of this type of aesthetic in Warhammer Fantasy is absolutely going to lap these up. This is a 4-character Warband pack for Warhammer Underworlds. And I just imagine that people are going to buy these for so many different reasons. You have vampire pirates with cutlasses and just really, really cool designs here.
The big mace,
big chunky guy. And obviously someone pointed out in the live stream that his midriff is showing here a little bit, so he's obviously pretty confident with that thing. Even all that heavy armor, doesn't really care about that. You're not going to hit me anyway.
His abs of steel. Oh, good.
And then we have this dude here. I think this is cool as well. Again, variation. It really shows that they're not all going to be like uber heroes. You have some more sort of miniony type people within this. One thing I did notice in the announcement is that when we were talking about it, they did talk about other models for the Soulblight, I think it is. So I think that this might herald this maybe, and we might be seeing more in this regard, and this might become a much more of a sort of a fully supported faction within Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, these sculpts are fantastic. I don't know. There's something about the vampire-y aesthetic that they really nail.
Absolutely. I think they've done a great job here. And like I said, I don't even have the Direchasm 2-player box. I'm going to pick this one up anyway, just to have the models. Awesome. Now,
oh boy,
let's get to the big news. This is the one that we're really excited about. Warhammer Quest Curse City. So give a little bit of your background, Chase, on Warhammer Quest.
Man, so I think when I think back to like the golden times of gaming for me, especially when I was younger, we started off with like Hero Quest, and then Warhammer Quest was like the big boy jump from there, and it was just like it was the thing. You know, I just have such fond memories. It's kind of like when you watch older shows, or you watch like Stranger Things or something that's trying to like capture like kids when they're young and the magic of that. Like that was Warhammer Quest in that era for me. And seeing Curse City here, I think just the overall aesthetic and some of the stuff we're going to see, like it's how I envisioned what I was thinking when I was younger, what I was doing, like the art, the style, but it's actually capturing it now. So I'm really excited for this. How about yourself?
I'm a bit of an imposter. So I didn't actually play the original Warhammer Quest. I think it was back in like 94. So that for me, that was the age that I went to university and kind of found other things to do rather than paint miniatures all day, and quite varied social life. So I wasn't really around much to do this type of stuff. So I missed that. But when we saw Silver Tower released, I got into that straight away because I really like that kind of like curated experience within a box, and that was fantastic. It remains a good game. It's a little bit uneven, I know. Some of the heroes are really powerful, so you can romp for it pretty quickly. But you know, if you use a bit of care attention, you could create a good experience for yourself. It's a co-op experience, so you don't have to. You're not playing against someone. You could even potentially play it solo. So that's quite good fun. They then did Shadows over Hammerhall, which was a GM type experience. And I think there was only just the box game. There's no expansions. There's a few expansions for Silver Tower. And I didn't even buy that. I didn't like the way that you had to have someone to play against. I like games where you can practice them yourself and then maybe introduce friends into it, rather than having to sit down and figure everything out. We'll get to the photos in a minute. The next one, which was an absolutely fantastic game, is Blackstone Fortress. And it remains one of the most collectible, sought after games. The biggest shame with Blackstone Fortress is there is a dearth of availability of all of the expansions. I've got the main game, I've got most of the stuff. So for instance, I've got these Abominable Intellect cards here. You'll notice these are still wrapped in the film. I bought them pretty cheaply when they first came out, $15. They sell for like 100 now. And I can't justify cracking these open for any, even though there's like, I don't know, 52 cards here, 34 new encounter cards. I'm not going to get the value out of this, and they're not going to be printing it anymore. So probably the value is not going to change, even though I don't buy things to invest in, these types of games. It's got to be value there. I've got this dreaded Amble model, which I picked up 3-4 months ago, and now you can't even get it. So there has been issues with availability. It's caused some frustrations. I really hope to get this right for this particular game, because I think this is going to be dynamite. Warhammer Quest Curse City. Let's take a look.
Even the aesthetic.
There is a video.
Amazing. Watch the video, guys. Watch the video. Yeah. We won't do it here, but you go watch it on your own.
Chase already looked through it and was remarking all the different animation techniques used. So yeah, he's a big fan. But then we come to the models, and they have previewed 2 models initially, and they're going to have a series of follow-ups to this. So,
oh my gosh,
this dude here,
like this was, I think of like Mordheim, when I think of like Warhammer, like Sigmar, the human factions. Like this was the sort of aesthetic that I think really is just Games Workshop. Like when I think of it in my mind's eye, this is it. Like I can't think of anything that's more iconic. So this is a fantastic miniature. Like I wanted to get this just to paint. I'll probably pick up the set, but oh my gosh,
it's very reminiscent of like Bloodborne. Slightly, I wouldn't say anime styling, but certainly more characterful.
Right.
Yeah,
and they got scrolls and the wooden stakes, and oh man.
It really works. Someone's gone through this. I like the big chunky buckles and the way that they've actually thought, well, where's his gear going to be and what's he going to have? They've put a lot of time into this. It really shows. So this is absolutely fantastic. In addition to this, we have this dude here, which is Gorslav the Gravekeeper. And I really love this model. I think for me, I like the baddies, and this has got so much going on here. Even from this little dude at the bottom with big worms coming out of his mouth and stuff. There's so much going on here. And remember, this is this is interesting actually. This is like a 32 millimeter heroic model, but I'm noticing for these types of games, the models are getting slightly bigger. If you look at games like the Conquest, The Last Argument, and what the guys at Parabellum are doing, they're quite big models as well. They're coming at about 34 inches, and I think we're going to start seeing models get bigger and bigger, so they become easier to paint, and b just a lot more easier to see and more impressive. If you look at the Lord of the Rings range, their models are tiny compared to Space Marines or Sigma Marines, whatever, basically from Age of Sigmar. So I think these are going to be slightly bigger, and as a result, we're getting way more detail, and I think we all win from that.
Yeah, the longer you look at the miniature, the more you see. Like, I love how he's got his little claw, his little hook hand, but he's like saving his hand in his belt, like just in case, you lose your hand, you don't want it to have it fall away. He brings it with him,
Probably used to that for like ironic high fives.
Right.
Kill someone.
Save his spot in on a bench or something. That's my spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or do you want a hand? And pass it over. So fantastic. And to support this whole system, they've got this site specifically for the game. We'll just visit that right now. There's plenty more to come over the coming weeks. One thing that Adam Troke did share, and I'm not sure if this was official, is that he kind of indicated this would be playable solo. So this would be a lot more like a Blackstone Fortress. He did say with a caveat that would be something we hear about, but it's very encouraging to hear that at this stage. Myself being a fan of that, and a lot of other people who really enjoy that experience.
I love on this page how you can see they're really experts at, Games Workshop has it down now, like teasing out their information and setting up a good pipeline for having information come out. And this is a great site.
Absolutely. So what we're dealing with here is the city of Ulfenkhan, and what they have is a map at the bottom. So before we get to that, they've got the characters, and you can see here we've got the Agents of Defiance and the Overlords of Ulfenkhan. And I believe we've got 8 agents, of which they've only got Jelsen Darrock, who is our cool Bloodborne type hunter here. And in the Overlords, we have Gorslav and his spare left hand.
Names are on point, right? These are amazing names.
Yep. How many times have you tried to play D&D and come up with a name, or maybe even a MMO, and you're sat at the character creation screen and you're thinking, why isn't this a skill I have? I just can't come up with good names.
I'm kicking myself now. I'm like, Gorslav the Gravekeeper. I should have thought of that. That's perfect. Come
exactly. In fact, if I play an MMO again, I'll probably try that name and think, it's available. Great, I'll be him, just to make it easier for myself. So over the coming weeks, they're going to have more and more sort of information about this, leading up, obviously, to the release date. No release date's been shared right now, but given the cadence of these types of calls and presentations, I imagine we're looking maybe a month or two before this is available in stores. Be surprised if it was longer.
And this map is an awesome way to kind of tease out information with the illustrations and just the general layout. What a great way to do this.
Absolutely. So each of these little icons here represent a different district in the city of Ulfenkhan. So we've got Geist Gate, where no one dares to venture near this gate except the spectral dead. So we're talking spectral dead here. We then have the Clot. This canal is now clogged by dried gore, and it's home to many carrion horrors. So you're seeing that we're potentially seeing different types of enemies, and it's going to be thematic in different areas, which is quite exciting. I imagine maybe there's some kind of sort of campaign where you have to go through these different areas, ultimately culminating maybe in a sort of final battle. Blackstone Fortress had a very similar kind of concept where you had this like mag lift elevator and you go to different levels. Maybe that's something we're going to see here. We've got the shadowed crypt halls, haunting music and screams echo from within these vaults. And then I won't go through all of these, but the corpse gardens. This is where Gorslav the Gravekeeper lives. So maybe we're going to see different boss miniatures from each of these different areas, and that's where Gorslav hangs out.
What about the illuminations on the side here? Is that him too? Gorslav up here? Is that?
this looks like he is. Now, I can't read this script. I'm sure there's people out there who can translate it, a bit like Star Wars fans. And we've got this dude here. This is similar to models that we've seen. And I'm trying to think which game it was. I think there was, is it Gore Chosen or something? That kind of aesthetic looks fairly similar, but I might be mistaken there. What I really like, though, is over on the left-hand side, we've got this heroic guy with, is that a halberd or pike? I'm not sure. I want to get that right.
Oof, I think it'll be a halberd, though, unless, yeah, it's a halberd.
I think so.
Someone's going to write it and be like, actually, this particular...
No. That's a falchion.
Right,
so
exactly.
Completely incorrect, yeah. So, and we got this kind of like Orthodox priest-looking guy with a really cool cat, which I think is adorable. So I really want to see this model. I did notice here in Hangman's Copse, this is the bat-infested site of a former Sylvaneth embassy. So we've mentioned the Sylvaneth here. We might see some corrupted Sylvaneth. And we also see a little bat. And earlier in the week, there was a reveal of this vampire here with bats in the hair.
Yep.
What do you think of this model, Chase?
I love like 80% of it. I'm a huge fan of. I just feel like for some reason, maybe it's the angle again. The bats in the hair doesn't quite fit. I think like everything else looks so cool and intimidating. I'm not really sure how I feel about the bats in the hair element itself, though. I don't know.
Same. I've seen this with someone did a recolor of it, and I felt it looked really, really good. The bats for me look a little bit like dollar store Halloween.
Right. Yeah.
Decorations. So, but you know, again, it's a 2D representation of a 3D model, so it can be quite hard for us to see. So there's plenty more coming here. I think we're going to be following this over the coming weeks, and this is obviously a must-buy for me. I really like these types of experiences within a box. So yeah, I look forward to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, it definitely speaks to me as well. You know, the hard part is going to be there's so many cool things out there coming. We got to really be diligent in what we're picking and choosing here. But I think this has moved upward on my list for sure.
Absolutely. I rely on your cautious nature when it comes to investing in games because, yeah, I can see myself getting underwater pretty quickly with some of these. So maybe limit my purchases to just maybe a few select projects. But this one for me, I'm definitely going to get.
The hard part is going to be there's so much awesome stuff coming down the line.
Absolutely. So if anybody at home really wants us to cover a specific topic from Games Workshop, please let us know. You know, if there's a game you'd like us to cover in detail, we'd be delighted to do so. But I think it's pretty apparent that Sisters of Battle is going to be a pretty tough ask of us. So maybe if you could move a little bit more towards Warhammer Quest, we'd really appreciate it.
And guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below. And in the meantime, I hope you get your miniatures on the table.
For some table talk.